I call the February 20th meeting of the School Board of Palm Beach County to order and ask the school board clerk to take the roll, please.
District 1, Barbara McQuinn.
Here.
District 2, Chuck Shaw.
Here.
District 3, Karen Brill. Here. District 4, Erica Whitfield.
Here.
District 5, Frank Barbieri.
Here.
District 6, Marcia Andrews.
Here.
District 7, Deborah Robinson.
All right, so we have quorum with all 7 board members present. The record should also reflect that at the dais tonight we have Inspector General Lung Chu, General Counsel Julianne Rico, Nolan Ursoy, the County Council of Student Council Presidents, our board clerk Carol Bass, and of course Superintendent Dr. Fenoy. Tonight we have 2 proclamations on the agenda. The first is a proclamation recognizing February as Career and Technical Education Month. We also have a proclamation designating February 14th as a day of remembrance in honor of the 17 victims of the incident at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. We will vote on those proclamations later in the meeting under new business. Now, at this time, I'd like to introduce the Forest Hill Community High School Army Junior ROTC, who will be presenting the flag, and here to sing the national anthem is a group of our middle and high school students who perform under the name Faith Place Center for Arts Education. They also will be singing Lift Every Voice and Sing in honor of Black History Month. And following them, the Dynamic Impact Drumline from Galaxy Elementary School under the direction of Janelle Andrews, the band director, and Lisa Steele, the principal of that school, will be performing for us. Would you all please now stand for the pledge and the national anthem?
March. Colors. Halt. Left. Face. Raise. Left. Arms.
I pledge allegiance
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rockets' red flags bursting into the night that
Please be seated, everyone. Where's our band? remarkable students from Galaxy Elementary School. That's right. Get some blood flowing here. We'd like to also acknowledge the principal of Forest Hill Community High School, Dr. Mary Stratus, whose students also performed here this evening. Thank you all for a job great. Well done. By the way, when we were singing Lift Our Voices and sing, the superintendent was singing next to me, and on the 11 years I've been on the board, I've never heard a superintendent sing, so I think you should probably sing the national anthem at the next board meeting. How's that? We'll take us back to the agenda and get back to business here. We have 15 sets of minutes on the agenda for tonight for approval. Unless any of you want to pull any of those off, we'll take a motion to approve all 15. Motion made by Dr. Robinson, seconded by Mrs. Brill. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Superintendent, we have 3 items added for good cause, LAC 1, P2, and P3. Are there any others?
Mr. Chairman, there are nothing else to add.
And you have any to withdraw?
Sir, I have nothing to withdraw.
We have 2 items that have been pulled so far, FMPF1 and FMPF3. Any board member want to pull anything else at this point? Okay, we need a motion to approve the agenda. Motion by Mrs. Andrews, second by Dr. Robinson. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Take us to disclosures and abstentions. Any disclosures or abstentions from anyone? So I have an abstention. I will be abstaining from the vote on item FMPF3. As an attorney, I provided legal services in the past to Mrs. Solnit, as well as Mrs. Solnit worked on my re-election campaign 3 years ago, for which she was compensated for her services. I am not sure that either of these present a conflict, but in an abundance of caution, I will abstain, and I have filed Form 8B as required with the school board clerk. Superintendent, do you have any comments?
Yes, so first of all, I'd like to celebrate the birthdays of 2 of my team members who sit at the dais with us. Ms. Karen Brill is celebrated her birthday on February the 9th. And our chairman celebrated his birthday on March the 3rd. So let's give them a round of applause for their birthday. I also wanted to begin tonight's comments by thanking the departments in the school district who helped our students and families affected by last month's government shutdown. School food service processed applications for more than 1,100 students who qualified for free and reduced lunch due to the shutdown. Our after-school programs, with the approval of the board, delayed payment and due dates for impacted families until the shutdown ended and their paychecks could be processed. Additionally, $630 worth of gas and grocery gift cards for furloughed federal workers were collected during the District Office Diversity and Business Practices Prime Vendor Showcase community event. My hat goes off to Ms. Dickie Sykes and her entire team for putting on amazing work in the Office of Diversity and Business Practices. I also want to personally congratulate Mr. Larry Clausen, who has been appointed as the Director of Construction Principal Liaison for the school district. I know it is bittersweet for Mr. Clausen to leave Palm Beach Gardens High School, where he has served as principal for many years, but I am very pleased, very pleased that he has accepted this position to work with our operations teams on the many, and I do mean many, school-based projects in the pipeline. I saw Mr. Clausen working today. Yes, I'm glad he's here. Mr. Clausen's replacement at Palm Beach Gardens High School comes before the board today for consideration. His name is Dr. Donald Hoffman, who will be leaving H.O. Watkins Middle School. And the new principal for H.O. Watkins, who will be also on the agenda for recommendation this evening, is Mrs. Awilda Tomas, who is currently the principal at Hope Centennial Elementary School. I also want to thank Pamela Arnett, who was a former principal with the district, for her willingness to return to the principal's office to take over as the interim principal of Green Acres Elementary while the Nichols family welcomes a new baby. Tegan Rose Nichols was born this morning at 10:06 a.m. Yay. Mom and baby girl are doing great, so congratulations to Scott and Deborah. Congratulations to all of you who are here for new appointments. The school district has kicked off its annual One Giving campaign to provide financial support to 4 very important causes in our community that provide services to our students, employees, and the community. Through March 15th, district employees can elect to make a one-time donation or payroll deduction to support the Education Foundation of Palm Beach County, the United Way of Palm Beach County, Florida Future Educators of America, or the United Negro College Fund. Last year, our employees contributed over $200,000 to these causes, and I challenge our employees to match or increase last year's donations. And finally, last month, the district hosted its annual HBCU HSI College Fair, where more than 1,200 high school students visited the representatives from 23 historically black colleges and universities and Hispanic serving institutions. Over the course of the two-day event, 1,723 college acceptances were granted, and get this, over $11 million in scholarships were awarded to these deserving students. This figure is up over $2 million from last year. Again, let's give all these students another round of applause. Mr. Chairman, this concludes my comments for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Board comments, Mrs. McQuinn.
Thank you. First, how unexpected to have this incredible opening to our board meeting. So thank you very much to the students who performed and for the directors who worked so hard with them for very little compensation. So I appreciate that. It was just a great way to start the meeting. Also, thank you. Congratulations to I want to add my personal congratulations to Mr. Larry Clausen. He held down the fort at Palm Beach Gardens High School for 10 years, almost unheard of. And of course, I'm going to remind you that I was a math teacher at Palm Beach Gardens High and former principal of Palm Beach Gardens High. My son and my stepson are both graduates of Palm Beach Gardens High School. So I want to add my personal thanks to Mr. Clausen for his amazing leadership at the school.
Mrs. Whitfield.
Thank you. I just want to be very brief. One of the pleasures of being on the board for me is that I get the opportunity to go and help judge many of the competitions that we have here. And I wanted to share with you two of my most recent experiences because I feel like one of the things that has happened, just like these students you see today, is that I have so much hope for the future and I'm so proud of our students. The first one I had the opportunity to attend was the Ethics Bowl, and what was amazing about that was that the students really have to come up with a debate and answers to each other, and they have to be able to back that up. And I have to tell you, it was such a challenge for me to be able to come up with questions that were as good enough to be able to actually challenge them. It was so much fun for me, and one of my schools ended up being the local winner for that, Atlantic High School. So I want to give a huge congratulations to them. Hey, we have Atlantic people in the back. Secondly, this past week I was able to go to the Academic Challenge, which is moderated or organized by Miss Diana Schneider, who makes my life very, very difficult because you can't pronounce anything wrong, and she makes you go over all of the questions ahead of time, and sometimes that can be a challenge. I think I did a pretty good job. Hopefully I'll be asked back again. This is my second year going. It was so much fun though, but the thing that is so amazing is that being not really an auditory learner myself, you have to ask all these questions to them, and the students have to hear math questions, very difficult ones, and then come up with the answer on the spot. And what's amazing is that they are actually able to do it. So for hours, I was there for 4 hours on a Monday. I stood there and we went over this, and the kids never wavered, and they continued to go. And I just have to tell you, the talent we had was so amazing. So my understanding is that the winner of today's competition was a secret, but I'll at least tell you who got into the finals, because that much I know that going into today's competition that I was not a part of. So Atlantic High School, Boca High School, Jupiter High School, Palm Beach Central, Santa Lucia, Spanish River, Suncoast, and W.T. Dwyer were all in the finals, and a lot of those students I got to see and experience how amazing they were. So I just want to tell everyone in the audience today, your students are amazing. Your schools are doing an excellent job, and I just feel so much hope for our future. Thank you.
Mrs. Brill.
Thank you. So am I the only one here that took notice that those adorable students from Galaxy Elementary School combined music and PE all in one? I just couldn't get that out of my mind. Anyway, you often hear us say that it takes a village working together to educate and support our students. Tonight, I want to highlight one effort that epitomizes that philosophy. On January 31st, the 15th Kids Community Closet was dedicated at Heritage Elementary School. The Kids Community Closet is a community service project of the Palm Beach section of the National Council for Jewish Women, a group which I am proud to be a member of. The volunteer nonprofit organization selects schools for a closet based on the high number of attending children that qualify for free and reduced lunch. Closets are stocked with pants, shorts, shirts, collared jerseys, underwear, socks, school supplies, and personal care items that are distributed by school staff on an emergency basis. I want to personally thank the volunteers involved in this project. Hopefully, we can recognize them more formally at a future board meeting. Next, I want to share with you that at today's COBRA delegate meeting, that's the Coalition of Boynton West Residential Associations, the membership voted to adopt its legislative platform, which included, and I'm paraphrasing, more funding for our schools' mental health efforts, and only allowing licensed law enforcement to carry guns on our campuses. So thank you, COBRA. Next, Green Cay Wetlands is a nature preserve located in District 3. The Friends of Green Cay Nature Center have asked me to announce a one-time only $4,000 scholarship opportunity for high school students who will be majoring in environmental sciences. The information will be posted to our website under scholarship opportunities, so please spread the word. Time is of the essence. No applications will be accepted after April 26th. And now, finally, for those of you who have four-legged furry family members, Cab Corp, the Community Assistance and Benefit Corporation, along with Palm Beach County Fire Rescue, asked me to mention at this meeting their initiative to save your pets. They are distributing these stickers to be placed at all entries to your home. You can write how many cats and how many dogs you have on the sticker, so that in the awful event that you have a fire, Fire Rescue will know to look for those family members. I have the stickers with me, and I will ask our board clerk to place a pile of them by both exits so that you can help yourselves on your way out and help save your family members. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Andrews?
Thank you. And today I had the opportunity to attend the Race to Equity Summit at the Palm Beach County Convention Center. And did I learn so many things. It was just wonderful to see the School District of Palm Beach County partner with the Children's Service Council and many of the stakeholders to talk about equity as it relates to economics, education, etc. It was so many things that you learn that it's about individuals to make the difference when it comes to equity. It's also about institutions to do the right thing as it relates to equity. Facing, embracing, and leading with equity. That's all of our roles. And I can't tell you about everything I learned, but there's one speaker that said something that was quite very, very wonderful that I'd like to share with you. And she says, if someone asks you about your race, what is your race? You need to answer one question to that question. We only have one race, not the black race, not the white race, but the human race. We have different cultures, and in our schools, we should be teaching about the different cultures. But we all are one, and we have only one race, the human race. The conference goes on tomorrow. Dr. Robinson will be on the panel. Dr. Fano, I see you're in the book. You're on the panel to speak tomorrow. It's been a wonderful week of coming together. We have so many problems that we must face, and we must, as individuals, come up with answers to do a better job for equity for all. And so I ask you to let's work together as a school board as it relates to equity for our children, for our adults, for the community, continuing to work together each and every day, because the problem will not be solved in one conference or a few conference meetings. We have to live it every single day. And a couple of other things I would like to say to you is that I had an opportunity to go to the Red Apple Supply Store. Thank you, Education Foundation, for all you do. Meredith Tripp, you're just so awesome. And teachers, The Red Apple Supply Store is making a difference for you in your classrooms. And as I looked at all of the supplies there and everything that you could get for free, I was just thrilled. So if you haven't had a chance to go to the Red Apple Supply Store, do so. And we also had a wonderful unveiling of the marquee out at West Tech. Dr. Charlene Ford, the principal, as well as the community, came out to West Tech, and we were all standing under the new marquee, and we had the sign company to come and turn the lights on to set up the marquee for action at West Tech. Community representatives were there, students came from the programs, adults from the programs, because West Tech is a place where you learn to earn. So it was a great day for the dedication of the marquee, and we'll continue to work hard at West Tech to educate our students and make sure they're career ready with vocational skills. And lastly, I'd like to say the Principal's A-Team Banquet at Glade Central High School. It's an annual event. If you haven't been there to see the showcase of students who have already completed their senior year requirements, their parents come together for an annual banquet where every senior that's met their GPA, they've passed the FSA, they've done their community service hours, they're heading to college or career or the military, they receive their cords to wear around their neck, they get jackets saying, "I'm on the Principal's A-Team." It's a fabulous event. I congratulate Glade Central High School, the principal, all of the students, the seniors. You made it happen. Your parents were so proud. The school district is proud. Keep up the great work. Students, teachers, staff, the school district is behind you 100% in all the things we do out in the community, in the schools each day. Thank you.
Dr. Robinson?
Thank you. Marcia, take one, pass it on, please. So this is February. So this is the 1 month that I don't give a Black History fact, because this is the month that we just get inundated with Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks, right? So I want to make sure that you're aware that on March 30th, there'll be a town hall meeting to share with the community the status of infusion of African and African American studies in Palm Beach County Public Schools. Secondly, I want to say that I don't know offhand who the principal supervisor is for Galaxy, but whoever that is, like, we need to start a fund and raise money, because we need to take those children to the Classic. And if you have not been to the Classic, you need to go to the Classic, okay? So I'm just, okay. So Howard's Homecoming and the Classic. I have to go every year, okay. So I also want to share the follow-up on some of the comments Mrs. Andrews made. So yesterday was a pre-summit meeting of the Government Alliance for Racial Equity. And it's interesting because so much of this racial equity work, when you hear these organizations, are spin-offs from the mother organization, which is the People's Institute for Survival and Beyond out of New Orleans. But they actually have a guide to help us walk through our policies and procedures and getting to racial equity. Now, the speaker that I believe Mrs. Andrews was speaking about that said all that human race stuff was Jane Elliott, the famous woman that did the Blue Eyes, Brown Eyes study. So I had to have a little conversation with her afterwards, because I'm not quite sure that she knew who her audience was. So I've been walking this racial equity walk for 2 decades plus. I was quite disturbed to hear her comments. It is fine to say that we are all one race scientifically, but let us be quite clear. There is a social construct that identifies race, and people have different life experiences based upon how they fit in that social construct. And so all the happy talk with the human race, that was all fine, but the people who've been fighting for racial equity for a long time all stood outside and waited for her to have a little conversation with her. So I'm not trying to, throw water on the parade or whatever the saying is. But I just can't tolerate this because this is what I've been fighting for. And I am so proud that this school district now can say race and can talk about race and could talk about equity. And as I said before, I'm waiting for us to actually take some real significant action towards equity, right? So, I mean, they had me on the closing plenary tomorrow. Wait, and guess what my topic is? Disruptive leadership. So, like, I'm like, okay. So I know that's like I look at myself like that when I was like they want me to talk about disruptive leadership, really? Like I don't know what level I'm gonna be on, but I invite all of you to come and tell me where I went wrong in case I say something crazy like the human race. But anyway, thank you for listening.
Vice Chairman, Mr. Shaw.
On a regular basis, we have employees in this district that retire, and it happens almost every day of the week. And on, I believe, March 1st or March 2nd, we have an individual that will be retiring from Palm Beach County who has served as a custodian in the district at Belglade Elementary for well over 30 years in that community, a gentleman by the name of Mr. Sam King. And I heard some people react, so he is somebody that everyone in the Glades knows, Sam. And this is a gentleman who has spent his entire career not only working at the school and doing his job as a custodian, but he has done the job for the community and has been so active and so supportive of students and teachers and principals and the community for such a long time that this is someone that we need to recognize. And I would like to publicly thank Sam for being a very wonderful person, for being the kind of he is absolutely the model of what we hope that people in public education are. When I was in the area office, I was not allowed on the campus at Belglade Elementary until I saw Sam before I went in to see the principal. So that shows his stature in the community. But Sam, if you're out there and you hear this tonight, we certainly congratulate you and wish you the very best.
To follow Mr. Shaw, today there was a party for one of our departing secretaries, Claudia Robbins, who works for the Inspector General. She's finishing her career with us. For many years, she was in her schools. The last school she was in, I believe, was Boca High School, where she was the confidential secretary. And we also found out that the IG, Inspector General, has confiscated one of our board secretaries, and he's taking Joyce Edison away from us. I told Joyce, if you think people try and avoid the board office, you're not going to get any visitors in the Inspector General's office, so you might as well pack a lunch because nobody's going to want to eat with you. So anyway, we wish Joyce a lot of lunch. Well, a lot of luck in her new position in the Inspector General's office. It's true. I say, if you ever stand outside the Inspector General's office, you never see anybody going through that door that's happy, I'll tell you. Except probably the people that work in there. So anyway, we wish Joyce a lot of luck in her new position and also Mrs. Robbins in her retirement. We typically recognize those at our board meetings, those members of our those of our employees who have passed away, and so I'd like to take a moment to recognize 3 of our employees who have passed away recently. Samuel Dixon Payne, he was a teacher in vocational business education at Turning Points Academy. He was born in 1952 and he died in 2019. Tracy Sumter, food service assistant 1 in Loggers Run Middle School. She was born in 1971 and died in December of 2018. And Edwin Urbina, mechanical technician 1 in facility services. He was born in 1959 and passed away in 2018. If we could have a moment of silence in remembrance of these employees and their families. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is something new that we haven't had before. there's a chairman's report there, and I've passed out the report to all the board members, and I've asked the clerk to make it part of the record tonight, so it'll be attached. I know each of you attend meetings and other events in your own districts, but I thought that I should probably make you aware of the different meetings and events that I attend where I'm recognized as the board chair, so there's some perception that I'm representing all of you at those meetings. So there's a detailed 3-page, which Mrs. Schuyler said was kind of, I don't know the exact word you used. What? Exhausting to read, but anyway, it's attached for you. I've given you all a copy of it. I just want to briefly summarize. Over the last 2 months, I've met individually with 7 members of the legislative delegation to discuss not only the legislative priorities that we discussed at the joint legislative meeting, but also those other priorities that we weren't able to talk about at that meeting because there were not enough time, as well as I covered with some of them some of the other issues that some of you have raised with respect to issues in your own districts. We're in the process of scheduling meetings with other members of the state Senate and the representatives there that I haven't met yet with. I also meet regularly with the mayor of the city of Boca Raton and the city council members, and I know Marcia Andrews does the same thing with respect to the Wellington, and I think that the open lines of communication that we keep with the state reps and also the cities is extremely important, as evidenced by the fact that Wellington, I believe this year, gave over $300,000 for benefiting the schools, the public schools in the city of Wellington, and the city council in Boca Raton gave us a donation of millions of dollars worth of land for the siting of a brand new elementary school. So the communication that we have in forming the partnerships with our other elected officials in the other government entities certainly pays off, and I know that a lot of you already do that, but if you have the opportunity to strengthen your ties with other elected officials, I suggest you do that as often as you can. I also have met with 2 of the county commissioners. There's 5 more that are being scheduled. There's 2 issues that I've discussed with them. One is the need for the county commission to start requiring developers to set aside land for us. If they're going to continue approving large developments, they need to understand that those large developments generate children, and those children have to have classrooms, and we're running out of space in some areas of the county. So far, 2 of the commissioners, Commissioner Weiss and Mayor Bernard, have indicated that they would certainly consider doing that. Again, I'm scheduling meetings with the other 5 to try and talk to them about that also. And the other thing is I'm asking them to let's get moving on the increase in the impact fees. It's been kind of delayed by the county commissioners for a couple years, and I think it's time that we get that resolved. Currently, I believe the impact fees for the school district are just under $2,000 per home. If you figure 1,000 homes, that's what, if I do my math correctly, that's $2 million. I think an elementary school cost is about $25 million. So certainly, if 1,000 homes generate kids for an elementary school, $2 million is not going to cut it. So they need to raise those impact fees to help us be able to provide classroom space for the children that they're bringing into our county by building these homes. And finally, at the suggestion of our Chief of Staff, Mrs. Schuyler, the board office is in process of scheduling a meeting for me with the new supervisor of elections, Wendy Sartari-Link. Since the supervisor needs to use our schools as polling sites, I believe an open line of communication between the board and the supervisor is extremely important. And finally, in the near future, Superintendent and I will be traveling to Tallahassee to garner support for Senate Bill 294 and House Bill 889 filed by Senator Monfort and Representative Buchanan, respectively. These companion bills are important pieces of legislation that would alleviate the district of future issues with the Ed Plant Survey, cost per student station, and capital outlay for construction. So the report is attached for all of you to review, and it'll be attached. And I should have said this to myself before I said all that very quickly. This is a reminder that this meeting is being transcribed in real time to provide closed captioning for the hearing impaired, so please pace your speaking to allow for that. So somebody can review the tape and just slow it down so that everything I just said they can transcribe. I would appreciate it. So sorry about that. My habit is, my wife tells me all the time, is talk slowly or don't talk at all. 47 years I've been married, so I listen to what she tells me to do.
Absolutely.
The next item on the agenda are presentations, and at this time, Mrs. Neka Nolan from the Communications and Engagement Department joins us for the February board presentations. Good evening, Neka. Would the board members go down front, please?
Good evening, Mr. Board Chair, board members, superintendent and staff, and community members. This evening, we have 10 presentations on the agenda. We begin with a recognition of the Career and Technical Education Students of the Year for middle school, high school, and junior reserve officers programs. Career and Technical Education Month is an annual celebration held in February in honor of CTE community members' achievements and accomplishments nationwide. CTE Month 2019 will give the CTE community a chance to tell the stories of leadership and excellence from classrooms across the country and raise awareness of the crucial role that career and technical education has in readying our nation for economic success and workforce competitiveness. All of our CTE students tonight represent the great accomplishments happening in the career and technical education programs and academies across the district. The Department of Choice and Career Options would first like to congratulate the 2019 High School CTE Students of the Year displayed on the screens. At this time, I'd ask that any of our high school CTE Students of the Year who are here with us this evening, please come forward to be recognized by the board. Let's give them all a round of applause. All right, thank you very much, everyone. Great job. Okay, you all can be seated. Next, we want to recognize our 2019 Middle School CTE Students of the Year. Any of our middle school students here this evening, please come forward to be recognized. Congratulations to all of them, and let's give them all a round of applause.
Dr. Robinson? You're hiding. Yes, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. 1, 2, and 3.
Great job. Thank you, everyone, so much. And just a note for everyone, all the photos from this evening will be posted on the school district homepage. So if you missed any photos, you'll be able to go there to see those later on. And finally, we want to recognize our 2019 JROTC Cadets of the Year from our high school JROTC programs. These young men and women demonstrate citizenship, patriotism, and leadership. These cadets have many hours of community service, are academically successful, and are true leaders within their schools and communities. For any of our 2019 JROTC Cadets of the Year from our high school JROTC programs who are here this evening, please come forward to be recognized. Let's give them all a round of applause. Thank you. Great job. And we also want to acknowledge Dr. Pete Licata, the Assistant Superintendent of Choice and Innovation. Dr. Geraldine Johnson, Director, Department of Choice and Career Options, and Janelle Hughes, Career Education Curriculum Specialist. Next, we want to recognize the HCA hospitals of Palm Beach County, and this includes Palms West Hospital, JFK Medical Center North, and Main Campus. These hospitals donated more than $10,000 to support various initiatives in the school district, including the Principal Leadership Academy, District Wellness, Teacher and School-Related Employee of the Year, Academic Challenge, and Showcase of Student Art and Awards Ceremony. A big thank you to the HCA hospitals of Palm Beach County for their support of the school district of Palm Beach County. Here this evening to accept this recognition, we have Sharon Tarlow, Education Coordinator, School Liaison at JFK Medical Center North Campus, and Dilma Bennett, Director of Marketing and Community Relations at JFK Medical Center. Let's give them a round of applause. Next, we're going to recognize Colusa Elementary School for being the second place winner out of more than 100 schools acknowledged by the Florida Atlantic University Pine Jog Environmental Education Center's Green Schools Recognition Program for Palm Beach and Martin counties. Colusa Elementary achieved the second highest score from judges by documenting their impressive school-wide green initiatives through an annual application process. The school has a well-established garden program that is utilized by all grade levels. Their program features a butterfly garden, a garden oasis, and a Flamingo Way walking path. Their school grounds are a certified wildlife habitat, and students frequently use the outdoor learning labs to study local flora and fauna and to make connections across the curriculum. Here this evening to accept the recognition from Colusa, we have Diane Ravelli-Schreiber, the school's principal, Kristen Mackow, a teacher at the school and green team leader, Lisa Lorenz, Dina Thyssen, and Alexandra Mangona. Let's give them a round of applause. Next, we will be recognizing Meadow Park Elementary School for being the third place winner out of more than 100 schools in the Green Schools Recognition Program. The school received the third highest score from judges by documenting their impressive school-wide green initiatives. This was Meadow Park's 7th year participating in the Green Schools Recognition Program, and their commitment to being green just keeps getting stronger. The school demonstrates its commitment to being green by hosting their annual school-wide green competition to boost student awareness of recycling. For the past 4 years, Meadow Park has held an annual book swap whereby students donate and swap more than 500 books a year to promote literacy and the ethics of reuse. Congratulations to Meadow Park Elementary School for being the third place winner in the Green Schools Recognition Program. Here this evening to accept this recognition, we have Valerie Zaloga Haynes, Meadow Park's principal, and Juliana Mercado, a teacher at the school and Green Team leader. Let's give them a round of applause. Next, we want to recognize Ms. Gail Pasterchik, who is the principal at Elbridge Gale Elementary School. She was recently named the Green Principal of the Year for 2018. She takes a leading role in the school's commitment to being green. She encourages her teachers to bring their students out into the environment as an integral part of instruction and annually approves meaningful field trips to Grassy Waters Preserve, Loggerhead Marine Life Center, Okehele Nature Center, and Solid Waste Authority. Ms. Pasterchik also prioritizes green projects in school fundraising, and under her leadership, the school gardens at Elbridge Gale have doubled in size. Congratulations to Gail Pasterchik for being named the 2018 Green Principal of the Year. Let's give her a round of applause. Now we'd like to recognize Dr. Rachel Wellman, who was recently named the Green Teacher of the Year for 2018. Dr. Wellman teaches Cambridge A's Environmental Management at Boca Raton Community High School. As Science Fair Coordinator, she organized her school's first fully digital science fair that was truly 100% paper-free. She is the advisor for the Environmental Club, STEM Club, and Our Planet Club at the school, through which she inspires her students to follow their intellect and passion as environmental stewards in our community. Dr. Wellman is a Google-certified educator and teaching with technology trailblazer, which has helped her model sustainability by greatly reducing the amount of paper used in her classroom. Congratulations to Dr. Rachel Wellman for being named the 2018 Green Teacher of the Year. Let's give her a round of applause. Next, we want to recognize Shreese Franks, who is the cafeteria manager at H.L. Johnson Elementary School. She was recently named the 2018 Green Food Service Staff Member of the Year. She is a fundamental part of the Green Team at the school, demonstrating her commitment to green school initiatives. Ms. Franks has given students healthier snack options, established a mobile breakfast cart, and encourages serving produce grown in the school garden. Ms. Franks actively contributed to H.L. Johnson's 2018 Green Schools application with reports on these and other green efforts. Congratulations to Shreese Franks for being named the Green Food Service Staff Member of the Year. And a special thank you to Willie Puz, the Director of Public Affairs and Recycling for the Solid Waste Authority, for their sponsorship of this award. Let's give them a round of applause. Next, we're going to recognize a number of schools who received Judges' Choice Awards for their exceptional accomplishments in key areas of their Green Schools applications. The awards are sponsored by area organizations and businesses to recognize each school's efforts and support their ongoing commitment to being green. At this time, I'd ask the representatives from each school to please come forward as I call your school's name, and can everyone please hold your applause until I've read all the names. Congratulations to Elbridge Gale Elementary School, Award for Habitat Improvement, sponsored by Audubon Everglades. Cross Point Elementary School Award for Energy Conservation, sponsored by Florida Power and Light. Golden Grove Elementary School Award for Green Fundraising, sponsored by Fundraising Dollars. Jupiter Community High School Blue Leader Award, sponsored by Loggerhead Marine Life Center. Palm Beach Central High School Award for Water Conservation, sponsored by the Loxahatchee River District's River Center. 2 schools who won awards for Best Green Schools Video, sponsored by Michelle Donahue of Douglas Elliman Real Estate, Sandpiper Shores Elementary School, and Bach Middle School of the Arts. 2 schools who won awards for Best Vegetable Garden, sponsored by Mounts Botanical Garden of Palm Beach County, Pine Jog Elementary School and Plamosa School of the Arts. Jupiter Community Middle School Outstanding School Garden Award, sponsored by Oleander Garden Club of the Palm Beaches. 2 schools that won awards, sponsored by Pine Jog Environmental Education Center, Boca Raton High School, Award for Community Involvement, and Okeechobee Middle School, Award for Most Improved. 4 schools that received Pratt and Whitney Grant a Green School Wish Awards for new schools in the Ambassador Schools program. Berkshire Elementary School, Highland Elementary School, Tradewinds Middle School, and Atlantic Community High School. 2 schools that received awards for school sustainability from the School District of Palm Beach County's Environmental and Conservation Service Department, H.L. Johnston Elementary School and Lake Worth High School. Palm Springs Middle School Award for Curriculum Integration, sponsored by Sequel Systems Incorporated. Panther Run Elementary School Award for Solid Waste Reduction and Conservation, sponsored by Solid Waste Authority of Palm Beach County. And finally, Gove Elementary School, Molly Sims Best Butterfly Learning Garden Award, sponsored by West Palm Beach Garden Club. Let's give all these schools a big round of applause.
Yeah, we're gonna need a third row. We're gonna come and start at third row, please.
Great job, everyone. Thank you. Now we'd like to recognize Alicia Jones Prettyman, who is currently a freshman at Palm Beach Lakes Community High School. She was named the 2018 Green Student of the Year. Last school year, as an 8th grade student at Roosevelt Middle School, not only was Alicia active in the garden program at Roosevelt Middle, but she took the lead in their energy conservation program, teaching the other students how to set up the kilowatt meters and how to reset them to take measurements. Her teachers and fellow students could always count on Alicia on recycling days, as she would often do double duty to cover for students that were absent. Alicia was a top student in Roosevelt's Environmental Magnet program, and she wants to major in environmental science in college. As a freshman, Alicia continues positive environmental practices in her community. A special thank you to Farron Webb, Alicia's teacher at Roosevelt Middle School, as well as her parents. Congratulations to Alicia Jones Prettyman for being named the 2018 Green Student of the Year. Let's give her a round of applause. And finally this evening, we are recognizing Gove Elementary School for being named a Green Ribbon School by the U.S. Department of Education. The school received the award for their commitment to student and community wellness, reducing environmental impacts, and for providing environmental and sustainability education. The Green Ribbon School Award is a national distinction that spotlights schools who are exemplary in their sustainability culture. Gove Elementary was nominated by the Florida Department of Education to apply for this national award because of the local green school recognition Gove has received and because of the many grants and innovative initiatives they pursue. The campus is LEED Silver certified with energy and water reducing materials such as native plants in the landscaping, green cleaning products, and ice storage air conditioning. This award acknowledges Gove Elementary School's commitment to sustainable practices and its leadership in facilities, health, and environmental education. Congratulations to Gove Elementary School for being named a Green Ribbon School by the U.S. Department of Education. Here this evening to accept this recognition, we have Kimberly Thomason, the principal at Gove Elementary, and the teachers at the school instrumental in this award, Bridget Lutz, Shelley Miller, Ellen Smith, and Gail Zavala. Let's give them all a big round of applause. Mr. Chairman, board members, superintendent and staff, and members of the community, this concludes our presentations for February. The Communications and Engagement Department invites you to visit the district website at www.palmbeachschools.org to learn about all the great things happening in our schools, departments, and communities. Please make sure to follow us on social media, available in English, Spanish, and Haitian Creole. And we also encourage you to download our mobile app in Google Play or from the App Store. Search for School District of Palm Beach County in either store. Thank you, everyone, for your attention this evening, and have a good night.
Okay, we'll accept the motion to adjourn the meeting. Just kidding. Nolan, you're up. It's your turn.
Thank you very much. Since we met last, the county council had one of our last general meetings and sessions at Forest Hill on February 7th, where we had the privilege of hearing Mrs. Whitfield speak and be our keynote speaker. May I say, it was one of my favorites of the year so far, and I actually took away a lot personally, so I'm very thankful for that. Since then as well, I've been waiting on the next step and hearing back from the board on the resolution we presented last meeting on the emergency telephone, so we're looking very forward to seeing the progression of that. Also in the county council, we've been talking about, sadly for me, talking about our upcoming elections. That's okay, you know. Other than that, I'd like to say I'm very proud of all the student governments in the county because there was a tremendous amount of work and effort putting in to events in remembrance of the Marjory Stoneman tragedy. It was something that all the student governments felt very strongly about, and I'm very happy all the work that was put in to remember that. I know at Park Vista alone, we adopted 17 Eagles in honor of the 17 students and held an entire week of events in honor of them, and I'm very proud of that. And that's all I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ursoy. Committee reports, Academic Advisory Committee. Nolan, you want to go home now? Okay. Got your homework done? Okay.
Good evening, Chairman Barbieri, school board members, Dr. Fenoy, and staff. This month, our committee heard a presentation from Chief Kitsero about safety measures that have been taken in our schools and future plans for safety. He mentioned the key elements include prevention, intervention, diversion, communication, crisis response, reunification, recovery, safety, and security. Chief Kitsero also discussed the threat assessment team at each school and the threat assessment instrument that is used. The committee members appreciated the efforts by the staff to coordinate with the mental health resources at the schools and in the communities. During the Deputy Superintendent's update, we heard that there have been 185 referrals to the crisis assessment prevention evaluation teams and about 1,500 referrals to the community partner agencies. And the committee was very impressed with these efforts and how much has been worked on. Also, during the update, we heard about the governor's executive order regarding the education standards and the related changes that will be required. There are questions about the timing of the textbook adoptions for math and literature as a result of these changes, possible changes. A committee member asked about plans to include training for teachers and the steps that will be needed to ensure that students won't have gaps in their education due to these new standards that we don't know yet what they will be. Committee members also asked questions about teachers and principals evaluations in the schools, especially focusing on the schools where there were few or no highly effective teachers rated that way, and the schools that have all or nearly all highly effective teachers. So it's both ends of the spectrum to be focusing on that. And concern was also expressed about how this impacts the morale at the schools. In January, the committee heard a presentation about the development of the master planning regarding courses offered at schools and equitable access to these courses. There were questions about the expansion of the AVID program, which now includes 16 elementary schools, and the AMP program. A committee member also asked about the lack of STEM classes in some areas of our district and schools, and raised the concern that this is indicative of an inequitable access to classes which could help prepare students for STEM careers. For example, AP Computer Science A is offered only in 5 high schools in our district this school year. And it's that class that teaches students how to program in Java, which would be great for their future careers, but only 5 of our 22 schools actually offer that class. And in the GLADE, students can access upper-level math courses such as calculus through dual enrollment. However, they don't have access to those classes in their high school, like many of our other schools in the district actually do. The committee also discussed the AMP program and how it is preparing students starting in elementary school to be able to succeed in these advanced math courses once they reach high school. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Feldman. The audit committee has submitted a written report that's attached to the agenda, and that takes us to Mr. Doctor Cork.
Good evening, Chairman Barbieri. I thought everybody was here to see me tonight. Board members, Dr. Fenoy. My name is Lou Doctor. I'm representing your Cork, your Construction Oversight and Review Committee. We had 12 items on our agenda to review, and I wanted to make a comment about it before I go through specifics. The package we received were very well prepared. The data was complete. It was accurate, it was informative, and it was certainly worthwhile and a joy to go over the information. The 12 packages is not unusual because we're moving through the sales tax money and putting through the necessary papers and documents in order to get them approved. So I'm briefly going to go through the 12 packages. They were all approved, but there are a few highlights that I just wanted to mention with you. In terms of PC1 construction purchasing, as you know, we qualify 1 new vendor and 3 renewal vendors, and that moved forward on consent. Design services for Addison Meisner Elementary School modernization moved through on consent. PC3 construction management at risk for Addison Meisner Elementary School modernization moved through on consent. Construction management at risk for the Adult Education Center Second Amendment. In response to a question from the Cork, staff informed us that an agreement had been reached with the surrounding municipalities. There was an issue in terms of fencing. There were some objections from the community. They didn't want it built in their area. It was very successfully resolved by communication with your staff, and they're all in agreement, and that's moving forward. In terms of PC5 design services for Washington Elementary School modernization, your staff resolved the cost per student station issue at that school. It looked like we couldn't build the school with the cost per student station forced upon us, and we can't afford to miss the cost per student station because the penalties associated with that are exorbitant and outrageous, but that's not an issue we can solve. Working with your staff and their support people, they came up with a solution. It meets the cost per student station, and therefore this design services contract is moving forward. That was recommended by a vote of 10-0. Construction management at risk for Washington Elementary School modernization. Your staff noted that the demolition costs to rip down a facility are also included in the cost per student station. It isn't just the construction of the new facility. That was recommended to go forward by a vote of 10-0. On PC 7 through 11, we recommended they all go forward with one minor correction. Some of the lawyers on our committee, and I've referred to them in the past, recommended an elimination of one paragraph because they felt it was a duplication, and in reading the contract, you could assume that a contractor could get paid twice for doing the same job. So to eliminate any possible confusion, we recommended it be removed. However, we suggested the contracts go forward as is, and that your staff consider a minor amendment to the awarded contract to pick up the differences. No sense in reviewing and revising the contract and resubmitting it and go through the whole process. So I thought that was a good suggestion, and your staff was more than in agreement. In terms of, so PC 7, 8, 9, 10 recommended they all go forward. On PC 11, facility renovation and repair for Jupiter Elementary School and Pahokee Elementary School. Cook had several questions, and the answers were interesting. We questioned why the two schools were packaged together rather than separate contracts. And the staff responded they're trying to get a variety of contractors at low level and high levels to bid and get opportunities to do the work rather than giving the work in one big package to one school. So a smaller contractor could bid on these two schools and get work out of us rather than forcing everything in big packages to one contractor. That was a good response to what we asked. We also noted there were issues with the Jupiter Elementary School. That might not apply to Pocahontas. And your staff replied, they're going to be separate contracts for each school, independent of the one contractor the contractor will be bidding on, so they'll be able to handle them separately. And the final one was an amendment to the sanitary sewer connection at Jupiter Farms. We've used a packaged sewer plant there for years, and it's now putting out contamination. It can't be fixed. It's old, it's obsolete, and it needs to be removed. So this is a proposal to tie in with the Waxahachie sewer main line. They figured out a new path that reduces the distance for the pipeline by some 40%. At the same time, the time this has been under negotiation discussions, costs have increased from the industry and from the workers, and we feel that it's appropriate that this move forward now. We recognize there's some opposition from the community. No community that's on a septic system likes to have a sewer line put in because of the impact and cost of what it would take to tie in on the line. So there's a 10-year moratorium that nobody's going to be forced to tie in on the line, but the line will be there if people want to put in it at the later date, and hopefully they'll resolve the cost issue. But it's something that's important that we move forward, and now's the time to do it, and we recommended that go forward without exception. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Shaw.
My question, Mr. Doctor, is for Ms. Rico. The items that Mr. Doctor just talked about, PC 7 through 11, is it appropriate? Do we need to take action tonight to authorize that paragraph change be taken out because it was suggested?
That'd be certainly appropriate so that those changes can go forward after you approve it.
Mrs. Paul, my understanding is you already made that change to the contract? In the contracts that are attached have been modified already?
Yes, sir. They have been modified.
Okay, thank you.
There were 3 or 4 words. It's not a big deal.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Doctor. And we appreciate all the work, because I know that the administration is keeping you pretty busy with all the projects going on, so thank you for your
We're
work.
pleased at the response we're getting from your staff, and they deserve to be complimented for the work they're putting in for this. And that's both the staff and the consultants that you brought along, which is a good way to get this volume happened in a cost-efficient and timely manner.
Did the COO ask you to make that comment, Mr. Doctor?
They twisted my arm. Thank you.
Deputy Superintendent Oswald, you weren't dozing off there, were you?
No.
Okay, keep your head up there so we can make sure you're awake. Okay, that'll take us to the elected officials and delegates. Mr. Gavrilis from Our Education Foundation, Charmaine Postal from the Palm Beach County PTA, and Jacqueline Calloway from the Coalition for Black Student Achievement. Would you please come up to the microphones? Officials and delegates. Mr. Gavrilis from Our Education Foundation, Charmaine Postal from the Palm Beach County PTA, and Jacqueline Calloway from the Coalition for Black Student Achievement. Would you please come up to the microphones?
Good afternoon. My name is Jacqueline Calloway. I'm the Vice Chair of the Coalition for Black Student Achievement. As of February 5th, 2019, 1,635 students in this district had been labeled as emotionally behaviorally disorder. Out of that number, 800 were Black. Why is this so? Is it an unfortunate coincidence, or does it reveal underlying systemic educational malpractices for our Black students? As of February 5th, 2019, 5,180 students had been labeled as having an intellectual disability, or IND. Of this number, 2,102 are Black. This simply cannot be accurate. It defies common sense that 40% of these students are Black. Are you aware of this data? The most recent data, as reported in the October 2017 Survey 2, 2018 was not available. The data indicates that Black students in this district have a higher risk ratio for being placed in EBD and IND programs than other racial groups. A risk ratio of 1 means that the group's risk is the same as others. Anything over 1 means that the group is at a higher risk of being placed in ESE programs than other racial groups. Using the state's risk ratio metrics, Black students in this district are being placed at a risk ratio of 2.17 in the intellectually disabled program and 2.72 in the behavior and emotional disabled programs. This is compared to the state, where the risk ratios for Black students placed in IND is at 1.98 and for EBD 2.10. Now, a reasonably reflective person cannot look at these numbers without considering that they must be viewed through the lens of implicit bias and maybe at times outright racial discrimination. To do so would be willfully ignorant of the current educational environment that Black students face daily and its future disruptive impact on their lives. When I last spoke to this board, I presented to you a list of action items that the coalition feels this district needs to take. It included the elimination of practices that have an adverse impact on Black students' access to a meaningful and quality education, devoid of racial bias, but rather have one that affords them an opportunity that is equitable as students move through this system, and one that prepares them to enter post-high school job market and college with an equitable opportunity to succeed. The coalition wants this board to conduct serious examination of the following issues. Examine the reasons why school psychologists are labeling Black students as EBD and IND in such disproportionately high numbers as compared to other racial groups and to the state. Examine matters having to do with Black students being referred by schools to EBD and IND programs. Make a determination on whether the school IEP practices are conducted in an efficacious manner and with fidelity, so as not to subject Black students to discriminatory practices as they pertain to ESE placement. And finally, let me move here. Investigate why Black students have an inordinately high risk ratios for being placed in the EBD programs and IND programs. This data keeps me up at night. I can hardly sleep, and it should be the same for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gavrilis.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Barbieri, Superintendent Dr. Fenoy. The theme this year at the Education Foundation is engagement. We're trying to increase the level of engagement not only of our board and our stakeholders in the programs, but I want to specifically thank Dr. Fenoy and all 7 members of the school board for your own engagement in our work. Ms. Andrews, if I wasn't the dignified professional that I am wearing my Bugs Bunny tie, I would have rushed up and given you a hug when you talked about your appearance at the Red Apple Supply celebration last week. And I want to thank all the members of the school board who have been very present at our events, at the Principal of the Year ceremony, and certainly the We Love Teachers last week. We have our Distinguished Alumni Award coming up just in 2 weeks on March 7th at the Convention Center, where we, the Ed Foundation, single out one of our Palm Beach County public school graduates who has gone on to greater success. This year we're honoring graduate of Boca Raton Community High School, head coach Mark Richt. We're also honoring Jerry Smith, the CEO of Office Depot. I shared some information with you a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to wait for the big announcement when Mr. Smith is present. But let's just say Office Depot is sending truckloads of things to Red Apple Supply this year, not pallets, truckloads. Speaking of Red Apple Supply, last year, in that entire year, academic year, we passed out $270,000 of school supplies, as you've heard me say repeatedly. Yesterday, we hit $284,000. So only halfway through the year, we've already surpassed last year's total, and I believe by the end of the year, we will have distributed roughly $400,000 of school supplies to our teachers. As you've heard me say repeatedly, in 8 years, we will be serving every school in the district. Finally, I'll make it very brief tonight, but in the immortal words of the philosopher W.C. Fields, always leave 'em asking for more. I am very pleased to announce that just last week we were informed by the Jim Moran Foundation that they have awarded a grant of $100,000 to the Education Foundation specifically for teacher training. And I just want to thank the Jim Moran Foundation, Melanie Burgess, Ms. Moran, and all of those amazing people at the Jim Moran Foundation for their commitment to public education, their confidence in the Education Foundation, and their belief and hope that we can continue training our teachers to give them the skills they need to succeed. Ladies and gentlemen, we are your Education Foundation, serving the needs of the schools, teachers, and students, and the finest school district in the state of Florida. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gavalis. Charmaine Postal, Lori Landis, President-elect of Palm Beach School Counselors Association, and Mr. Katz, CTA President.
Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous.
You want me to go first?
Sure.
Thank you all. My name is Justin Katz. I'm the president of the Palm Beach County Classroom Teachers Association. I just wanted to thank the board preemptively for the collective bargaining agreement I assume that you're going to vote and approve on a little bit later tonight. I can tell you from my 2 years now in this position that it was a pleasant and marked change of tone and conduct this negotiation round compared to last year, if you can recall. Last year was decidedly hostile, I think, might be the best word to describe, and this year, on the other hand, was the exact opposite. This might have been the quickest and most amicable negotiation that we've ever had as a CTA in the district, and I believe it produced mutually beneficial outcomes. As far as language, I think the district did a great service to teachers in the county by allowing their students, their children who are students, not only to go to their school, but to also go into feeder and receiver schools so that their children aren't with a group of students and then leave those students and then leave that second group of students. I think that was a zero cost compromise to allow teachers to feel more comfortable bringing their students up through an entire pattern of schools as opposed to shifting them around the district. With regards to the raises, we're grateful for what the district was able to provide. We understand that the legislature does us no favors ever, so it's difficult for you guys to come up with the funds that can be viewed as a respectful raise in hard times, but you were able to do that. And again, we were able to do it without having to go back and forth. I think that this round of negotiations was a testament to your leadership and the leadership of the superintendent and deputy superintendent. We brought issues to the table, and you brought issues to the table that we knew we were either going to find consensus on or they were going to be disregarded. It wasn't going to turn into a protracted fight. Some of the issues that came up last year regarding planning time and sixth period instruction and things like that, I'm grateful that they were not brought up and don't anticipate them being brought up again anytime soon, because those are some of the most divisive and concerning issues that face teachers when you talk about shifting their time on the clock to off the clock for work. So I'll wrap it up with this. We enter negotiations in 2 months for next year, and it's my personal goal to have those negotiations concluded by the end of this school year, so that for the first time in memory, employees of the teacher bargaining unit might actually know what their contract is when they walk into school in August, as opposed to waiting until Groundhog's Day or sometime around this time of year, which has been the trend. But again, it's a testament to all your work. It's a testament to the leadership in the district, as well as your bargaining team. It's a great group of people, and while we might disagree on a number of things, this was evidence that disagreement doesn't mean conflict, and that we can work through these things and do what's best by employees as well as the district and the taxpayers. So I want to thank you all again.
Thank you, Mr. Katz. And this board recognizes that we have some of the finest teachers in the state of Florida right here in Palm Beach County, as evidenced by the fact that our schools outperform most of the other schools in the state. So the board's pleased that we were able to give you the raises that you deserve. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Superintendent Dr. Fenoy, board members, and district representatives, thank you for allowing me to speak today on behalf of the Palm Beach County School Counselors Association, and as co-president-elect, thank you for your continued support for the social, emotional, and mental health of our students. How wonderful was it that over 500 guests just attended our annual Principal School Counselor Breakfast this month in celebration of National School Counselor Week. Our professional certified school counselors are excited and hopeful to have this additional support of the behavioral health position to provide additional direct services to our students. School counselors are uniquely trained to work with students in the K-12 setting to help with academic and social emotional development of our students while helping them prepare for graduation and becoming productive citizens. School counselors all have master's degrees in training to provide mental health support for students, and many of us have second masters in social work, mental health counseling, or PhDs in the counseling field. We work with students, teachers, parents, and the community to provide a comprehensive school counseling program to support our students. Yet there are many barriers for service delivery. School counselors, unfortunately, are asked to support school operations and unrelated tasks, taking time away from direct services to students, even though school counselors are highly trained to provide the services that they really need. Some examples of these tasks include being on the fine arts wheel full-time, supervising classrooms, monitoring common areas such as cafeteria and car duty, covering PLCs, SBT, and 504s. Often our schedules lack flexibility and don't match the students' availability, which makes it difficult to address their needs. In a recent survey of elementary school counselors, 69% reported on top of their school counseling duties they are designated 504 coordinators, and 49% were school-wide positive behavior coaches, which takes them away from providing counseling services to students. Please don't misinterpret what I am implying. School counselors love what we do. We're team players. We meet with children and families before or after school, during lunch or transition times. It is extremely difficult to provide a most effective program with these additional tasks. To quote the author Jim Collins in his book, Good to Great, you need to have the right people in the right positions, and this is the key. Creating 3 more positions to support the new mental health bill is very important yet. We are concerned that school counselors are not getting a new job description, and during the recent contract proposals, school counselors were not discussed independently during the round of negotiations. We are still heavily dictated by other duties as assigned by our job description, and our roles are changing by the day. This is a concern that with the creation of this new position, our efforts as certified school counselors will be steered into school operations and supervising classrooms, or to perform unrelated tasks to the essential role of the proven school counselor. We welcome this new position to provide more support and enhance the services that we already provide. We hope that the person in this position will not be replacing the services that we are and should be providing our students as part of a comprehensive school counseling program. We strongly recommend that the school board, district leaders, and principal align this new position with the already existing highly qualified school counselors that are in place to reduce those non-counseling responsibilities that our school counselors are assigned. We further encourage the board to ensure an interview process in which individuals who are hired have appropriate counseling and systems experience in schools. Great damage could be done to our children, their families, and our community with ineffective, untrained personnel trying to facilitate this comprehensive work. 1 in 5 children in Florida are reported to have a mental health disorder. That's 20% of our youth. We don't have time to waste before poor choices and tragedies occur. We ask that this new employee obtain a substitute credential, as we need them to be our partners to deliver effective prevention services. This would allow the newly hired physician to share in the counseling duties in addition to other duties assigned, like the SBT 504 PLC coverage, etc. We're all on the same team. We want the same thing. We want our children to be safe, kind, educated, problem-solving, productive citizens who advance from the Palm Beach County schools to higher education and training. Thank you again for your continued support you provide to our students, our communities, and of course to my fellow school counselors.
Thank you very much. We have no agenda topic speakers. Board members, the two items have already been pulled, are FMPF1 and FMPF3. Does anybody else want to pull anything else at this point? So we need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion by Mrs. Brill, seconded by Mrs. Andrews. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. That takes us to new business. Mr. Superintendent, COM 11.
Yes, sir. I recommend the board proclaim February 2019 as Career and Technical Education Month.
Motion made by Mrs. Andrews, seconded by Mrs. Brill. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Superintendent, COM 12.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend the board proclaim February 14th, 2019 as a day of remembrance for the victims of the incident at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School.
Motion made by Mrs. Brill, seconded by Dr. Robinson. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. FMPF1.
Yes, sir. I recommend the school board receive and accept the monthly contract and disbursement report as submitted.
Motion made by Mrs. Brill, seconded by Mrs. Andrews. Dr. Robinson, did you pull that?
Just my monthly rejection, because we're making progress. I get it, but I think we were 3.4% or something. It's still not good. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Dr. Robinson opposed. Motion carries 6-1. At this point, I'm going to pass the gavel to Vice Chair for FMPF3, and I will return after the board has settled that agenda item. Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, sir. Mr. Shaw, I recommend the board approve Amendment 1 to the contract with Rita Salznet and authorize the superintendent and board chair to finalize and sign all necessary documents.
We have a motion by Mrs. Brill, second by Mrs. Whitfield. I pulled this item. I have to vote against this item tonight because when I got the answer to the questions, we have some issues there of not being in compliance with state House of Representative regulations. And, you know, I know there's work that needs to be done. And I do not want to put this board in a position that we are out of compliance with anything that's going on in Tallahassee. And it's something that if we just have to deal with. I'm also concerned about duplication of services. And this may not be the best interest of the board. And to help, I want to be on record that we have somebody who is out of compliance with state requirements by the legislature, and I can't vote for it. Any other questions? Mrs. Brill?
Thank you. I don't know how, I didn't see anything about being out of compliance, but I will tell you that Ms. Solnit, I'm out in the community a lot. I know all of us are, and I got to tell you, this is the first time that we've had boots on the ground, that I hear from our legislative delegation about how helpful she is in drafting bills and working with them. My understanding when I go up to Tallahassee is that we'll be working with Ron LaFace up in Tallahassee, but she's just been an enormous help. I've seen her at meetings. I've seen her in action, and I've been very pleased to have somebody local that's able to assist. So for that reason and others, I'm going to support this item.
Mrs. Whitfield.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a statement that I've been uncomfortable with the way that this contract has escalated. I don't think when we discussed this originally that was my intention, to have the budget go up so much. I realize it's not a huge increase, but I would like to just express that I don't understand why there has been so many more dollars associated with this than I had originally intended. I just wanted to make those comments. Thank you.
Mrs. Andrews?
Thank you. And as your legislative liaison, I've been working with Ms. Solnit quite a bit. I've seen her work with parents across America. She actually has a whole lot of experience working at the federal level, going to Washington, D.C., and really working on many projects. She's actually been out to the communities, making presentations, and really truly giving input to the community leaders. She was in the Glades just recently with the legislative delegation, helping to work with West Tech. So I've just seen her do a lot of legwork for us, and I've just seen her work over the years, which has been very, very good. So I'm certainly going to support this.
Any other comments? Dr. Robinson?
If I may, I need clarification on this non-compliance.
The Florida House of Representatives has a requirement that any lobbyist in the state of Florida that has any contact with a member of the House of Representatives has to disclose who those representatives were that they met with. They have to disclose what the topics were that they discussed. They have to list and identify any bills that are being discussed. And this has to be reported on a public records, one of the sites on the Florida House thing. If you look at any of the lobbyists in the state of Florida, they are in compliance. If you look at Ron LaFace's page, there are multiple pages of everything that he deals with. And on ours, there's not one single thing that's been entered in there. And we face being told that she cannot meet with any members of the House unless this has been completed. So I just think it puts the board in jeopardy if this is not being done. Mrs. Burrell.
Thank you. Well, I would think that it would be appropriate for staff, to whoever Ms. Solnit reports to discuss that with her and correct it. I'm not willing to, to say that we're not going to continue her work, because I see how valuable it's been, especially in my district where we have a lot of active involved legislators, and I know that she's been offering to draft bills, and she knows the workings of the legislature, and as Ms. Andrews said, both locally as well as up at the federal level.
Mrs. Andrews?
I guess my question would be to Mrs. Schuyler through the chairman. For this report that you're talking about, Mr. Shaw, has anyone spoken to Mrs. Solnit? She's been working with us since, I guess it was August, and being paid with us and doing the work, because she's been out in the field with me as well as working the community. And for something of this magnitude that you're talking about, did anyone speak to her?
Yes. So Mrs. Solnit is a registered lobbyist. She's correctly registered with the Senate and the House. However, as Mr. Shaw states, there is an additional step that is required to speak to a member of the House of Representatives during session. Ms. Solnit's primary scope of work is in the federal area of legislation. So long as she stays within the guidelines of her scope of work, not registering at the House of Representatives and not going to Tallahassee during session, will keep her out of a violation. I think it's important that board members remember that her scope of work is really in the federal level, and to handle local relationships and steward those on behalf of the board, while Mr. LaFace's job with Capital City Consulting is to manage the House of Representatives. So as it stands now, Ms. Solnit can speak to any member of the Senate. She would be in violation of House rules if she were to approach a member of the House of Representatives at this time. And she's aware of that.
Right. And just to clarify, the reason this is such a concern, when you look at the questions that I ask, you see that there were multiple contacts made with representatives over the last several months, as well as indications of helping to write bills. And that just concerns me that we're in that position. And a lobbyist working in the state of Florida should know this. So unless there are any other questions.
That has been addressed by staff.
Dr. Robinson?
So the question is, can it be cured? The question is, can it be cured? So I get, as of today, she is out of compliance. The question is, can she now submit the report that goes back and fills in all these blanks that says, I met with whoever on this day, she's got the topics here. Can that be cured? And maybe, I don't know if that's a question for legal.
It can be cured. You know, it's just a matter of filing and documenting. I think the real issue is that it's the scope of service, and it's important that each lobbyist handles the scope of service for their work, particularly during legislative session. This is a slightly new format for the board. However, the format has always been that Capital City manages the delegation during session so that the right hand knows what the left hand is doing. And then we always had somebody or staff on contract that would take care of the local issues outside of the legislative session calendar. That in and of itself is, if that is honored, we will not have this issue because it would not be critical for Ms. Solnit to be touching House legislators or Senate legislators at this time.
Mrs. Brill.
Thank you. And this is my third comment, but I just wanted to say that I did get assistance in understanding the scope because I wasn't really clear on it. And I did have a conversation with Mr. LaFace as well as Ms. Solnit. I'm going up the day before Palm Beach County Day because I want the opportunity to speak with some of the authors of some bills that are impacting us while I can get their ear when there's not hordes of Palm Beach County people up there. And Ron's been putting together meetings and organizing them through Ms. Schuyler. So I believe that both lobbyists know their scope, and it did help me. So this will clarify for others what the boundaries are. But as I said, I have found Ms. Solnit's work locally invaluable. It's wonderful to have somebody that is able to work locally. And I also find that Ron's connections, Mr. LaFace's connections in Tallahassee are also invaluable. So we've got the best of both possible worlds. So I hope we can get that cured and move on. Thank you.
Mrs. Whitfield.
Has Ms. Solnit agreed to stay within her scope?
Yeah, I think we're in a good place now. You know, it's also important that the board remember what her scope is. So she also serves at the pleasure of the board, and on occasion she gets requests that are also outside of her scope. And so, you know, it's just important that we stay within those scopes of work. Ms. Solnit can easily file the necessary paperwork for the House of Representatives. That would be the safest thing to do, but during session, it's Capital City Consulting that really leads the charge for our platform.
For the issues that we have previously with the House of Representatives, is there any kind of ramifications that come for not having filed the paperwork prior to speaking with them?
There could be an ethics complaint. Once we realized that Ms. Solnit had not completed the final step of her registration, I suggested that she self-report to Representative Polsky, who is really the member of the House that she had been working with the most frequently. To
Does that have
answer
any kind of-
questions, though, not to lobby.
So would that ethics violation have any ramifications on the board?
I honestly don't know.
So I have not, thank you. I have not undertaken the legal research on that, but I can tell you generally, as the board knows, ethics issues are owned by the individual whose ethics it involves. So I would want to confirm this, but I do not believe it has ramifications for the board from a liability or any sanctions against the board. It would be the individual's own ethical violations. But I will definitely look into that and let you know.
Mrs. Andrews?
Thank you, and it's nice that we're talking now, but some of the things that we're talking about now, I think those things should have been discussed with Ms. Solnit a while back. I mean, she's been working with me with an appropriations piece with a representative, so hopefully nothing is going to be a problem with that format that has been sent to me, as well as the community that she's actually working with for West Tech and the monies. So, I mean, now I'm hearing all of this tonight about the scope. I'm thinking that conversation should have been held way before tonight, but hopefully there's nothing going to go wrong with the processes that we've been doing to get what we need to get. Can you clarify that for me?
Dr. Fenoy?
So the scope was discussed at the original meeting. So let me be really clear. When we got direction on this, the scope of who was doing what was discussed. It is on record at that retreat that we took. Mm-hmm. So the both lobbyists knew exactly what the scope the board and my office intended for them to have, which is why their contracts were very specific to that scope of work. So from my standpoint, if you're a contractor with us, you should know those rules in order to comply with those pieces. So we were very clear at the beginning when the board and my team had that conversation and we created the contracts. So that's been on record since the very beginning.
Mrs. Andrews?
Just one more time, because I recognize what you're saying right here, but we did some work. Ms. Solnit did some major work on a project with West Tech, so I just want to make sure that that's not in jeopardy now that we're talking tonight about the scope, because when she was doing all of that work, somebody should have known that she was out of her scope before
No, she wasn't out of her scope, Ms. Andrews. So managing the local relationships and advocating on the behalf of the board is just certainly not out of her scope. And she did a great job of submitting the Senate allocation request that is actually in process as we speak. So that's not out of her scope. Look, if there has been any misstep here, ultimately that is my responsibility. Legislative affairs is new to me. This is a new structure to the board. And while Ms. Solnit has been a widely recognized community advocate, she's never been a lobbyist before. And so we've worked through the pieces of her contract where we have to have compliance. She is in compliance with the exception of the House. And that can either be corrected with filing a form, but frankly, Capital City Consultant manages the delegation during the session, as it should be. Because we have one touch point in Tallahassee, and that keeps everybody on the same page.
Mrs. Brill?
Ms. Schuyler, to Ms. Schuyler through the superintendent, you've been saying repeatedly when they're in session. So my understanding, though, is that for the prior meetings that she had, that they were not in session.
And it wasn't necessarily lobbying, so responding to a representative's request for information, whether it's on career academies, health education, that wouldn't necessarily be considered lobbying.
So as a follow-up, I believe Ms. Polsky's in my district, and I believe that she actually reached out to Ms. Solnit for assistance.
That's correct.
So, and it was not during session. So there may not be pieces that need to be cured with regard to that, but I mean, we'll leave that up to you and Ms. Solnit
That's
to
correct.
determine.
We'll work through it with Ms. Solnit. And I know that Mr. LaFace will provide some guidance as well.
Any other questions? If not, we'll call the question. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 4-2 with Mrs. Whitfield and myself voting against, and Mr. Barbieri abstained from that vote. So, Mr. Barbieri, welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Next item on the agenda is LAC 1, Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I recommend the board approve the 2018-19 negotiated amendment to the July 1, 2017 through June 30, 2020 collective bargaining agreement as attached pending ratification by teachers.
Motion made by Dr. Robinson, Mrs. Andrews, Mrs. Brill, Mrs. Whitfield, Mr. McQuinn, and Mr. Shaw. So I'll second that. Any discussion?
Good man.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0 by unanimous consent of the school board. Congratulations to our teachers. They got a raise they well deserved. P2, Mr. Superintendent, job descriptions.
Yes, sir. P2, I recommend the board approve the job descriptions that were tabled on February the 6th, 2019, with a time certain date of February the 20th, 2019, to come back for approval as submitted.
Motion by Mr. Shaw, seconded by Mrs. Andrews. Discussion, Mrs. Brill.
Thank you. So I'm going to start off first off talking about I mentioned something to the deputy superintendent and the superintendent that when we do get these job descriptions, and we talked about it last meeting, we do need to get the organization charts. But what became very evident to me when I looked at the organization chart we were presented with, there was a major change, the movement of one of our departments. And I don't have, it's been moved back, so you don't have to look for it, but I don't have these organization charts engraved in my brain. So when there's a change that impacts other departments, I've asked that when we get these organization charts that you please highlight what that change is so that we are aware, and that if there's any concerns, we can express that. Now, I'm not going to make a motion yet to break out the third job description, which is for the professional school behavioral health. I will tell all of you that I've spoken with 4 different professionals in the field, a psychologist, a counselor, and a couple of others, one who's retired. We also received an email from someone who's in my district who's retired in that type of position, which I have here somewhere. But I'll tell you what the concern is, and the concern is on the first 2 qualifications. the qualification of a bachelor's degree in psychology, social work, blah, 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 or 5 years of related industry experience, all of the mental health professionals have said to me that that's not appropriate. And we heard our speaker, who is with the Counselors Association, saying that they all have master's degrees. I was told by the people that spoke to me that you can't have somebody that doesn't have a master's degree in this type of field. And saying 5 years of related industry discipline, well, it was a bit of an exaggeration. They said to me, you know, they could say that they worked at a certain mental health facility, but they could have been emptying bedpans. You don't know what they were actually doing. So I was given some language to change that, but I don't know if you want to have a discussion first about the bachelor's degree or 5 years of related industry discipline. I know that we need to fill those jobs, but we need to really make sure that we get the right people in those jobs. And if the professionals in those industries are saying that a master's degree is required, I want to know why you think it's not.
Mrs. Brill, perhaps we should have a motion to approve the other two job descriptions, and then we'll discuss this one separately.
That would be perfect.
Okay, so you want to modify the motion that's on the floor?
So I'm going to modify the motion on the floor to remove the professional school behavioral health position from the discussion.
All right, do we have a second? Mrs. Andrews seconded that. Any discussion on the amendment? Mrs. Whitfield?
Sorry, thank you. I just wanted to jump in before we approve those two. From my partners over at School Food Service who work on the Wellness Promotion Task Force and oversee that, they had created a little bit of a slight modification to the wording on, I believe, number 6 on all of them. Well, let's see. And I know that stuff that was sent to Mr. Mitchell to add in, possibly. It's a very slight change, and I would think that maybe we should include it. So what it currently says, do you want me to tell you what it says?
No, hold on, Ms. Whitfield. So we're currently
It's in all 3 of them.
Yeah,
So
it's on all 3? Okay, so we're
there's
currently
changes
voting
to
on
all
just
3.
removing the 2 from the other one. So let's finish that amendment, and then we'll
We're
go
going to
to...
separate and then we'll talk about all 3
Yes.
of them separately.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Do we have 2 and 1? So we're separating the 1 off, and now we're dealing with just the 2? All in favor of the amendment to separate them? And
Sure.
opposed? Okay, motion carries 7-0. So now, Mrs. Whitfield, we're on, if you're on one of those 2?
So all 3 of them have slight changes to that one. It's all about the wellness promotion policy being added into it. Mr. Mitchell, do you have those bits of change? Did they send it to you? No? So basically, it would say in the job responsibilities, responsible for supporting and promoting the district's wellness promotion policy to include participation in the district's wellness promotion collaboration team from various wellness areas under this position supervision, as well as promoting the district's whole school, whole community, whole child model through the district. And so I think the part that's important to me, slightly different than what's written there, is that instead of just saying that they would work collaboratively with them, it's that they would actually, encourage the participation of their employees, because so many people that will be working under these positions will participate.
Superintendent?
It's too confusing? Okay. Well, you can move on to the next thing if you want, and I'll print this all for you, and you can see it. No?
So what is the ask? I need
The
to hear
ask is to change it from working collaboratively with all teams and stakeholders to promote the district's wellness promotion policy and include participation on this wellness promotion collaboration team.
Mrs. Whitfield, can you reference that line, which one it is, which position?
Sure.
Thank you.
So on the assistant superintendent position, under performance responsibilities, it's number 6.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, pardon me, performance responsibilities. And then also number 6 on the next one, also under performance responsibilities.
So am I hearing you say you want these jobs to not work with these individuals on the wellness side. You want them to promote them?
Promote the wellness promotion policy. So we have a policy. So
Yeah, I'm
they would
familiar
have-
with the policy.
Mhm. Yeah, so
Just-
to actually, instead of just showing up to the meetings, be an active participant in them and
Okay.
promote the policy. No,
Yeah, that
too
seems
much.
pretty simple to me.
Just want to add promotes and in front of works collaboratively, promotes and works collaboratively. Will that satisfy you, Mrs. Whitfield?
Sure, thank you.
Okay, so do you want to make, would you like
So
to?
yet another motion.
Yes.
Okay, so in this motion, I would say, so just responsible for supporting and promoting the district's wellness promotion policy. How about I just leave it at that? Can we add that in and that'll be enough? Okay.
Superintendent said he's fine with that, Dr. Robinson?
So,
Let me see if I have a second on that first. That's a motion by Mrs. Whitfield. Is there a second?
Wow.
A second?
I didn't do very well there, huh?
Dr. Robinson, go ahead.
so the reason I couldn't second it is because it feels like mission creep to me. So, I mean, I've been fighting so long for us to get people whose whole job it is to care and focus and look at the eyes of children and address their social, emotional, behavioral needs. I don't want to start broadening it into all the wellness, because we already have like a wellness coordinator or something, right? So there's somebody who owns the wellness policy. I need somebody to own the social, emotional, behavioral part. I think collaboration is great. I get interaction, but I don't want to start having the folks whose job it is to address this start being responsible for the whole thing. That's me.
I'll ask for the chair to ask a question.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, just a point of clarification, if I may. It sounds like when you're saying responsible for the promotion of, it sounds like we're shifting the responsibility for the district wellness policy from school food service to this position. Is that what you're saying?
No, I
Oh, okay.
wasn't trying to do that.
Okay.
No,
I was just
no.
looking for that clarification because it sounded like that a little bit.
No, that wasn't
Okay.
that wasn't my intention. I think
Okay.
more than anything, my intention was that we continued to respect the work that's already been done with the Wellness Policy Task Force and with the group around that. But it's okay. So, I tried.
So you are
I'm
okay with
good.
works
I'm fine.
collaboratively? Okay.
We can leave it.
So we're voting on the director and the assistant superintendent. So is there any more discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Mrs. Brill, now you want to make a motion to change something on the professional.
So before I
behavior
make the motion, I just want to give you a little background, if I may. One of the people that I did have extensive conversations with is Kathy Gunlack. As you all know, she retired. She was a school psychologist here in the district. Also, all of you received an email from Faye Kravitz. And then I spoke to two people that are associated with the Mental Health Association. Faye was a licensed clinical social worker. She worked 30 years as a school social worker and supervisor for Broward County Schools. And she was active in the intervention and recovery efforts at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas after the events that happened. Her email basically says that the position that we have requires the clinical knowledge and training that a master's degree provides. That's what I've been hearing from others as well, that hiring a bachelor's level individual is beyond the scope of practice for this position, and that it would be detrimental to the district to not require a master's level clinician. And I was given some replacement language, but I want to hear what your thoughts are. I want to allow you to explain to me why you feel. I know that very briefly I was told it was because we need to fill those positions. Well, I really don't want to fill those positions with someone who's not qualified to do the work. So,
Mrs. Brill, we have a time certain for non-agenda speakers, and it's now. So we are going to come back to this discussion after we take non-agenda speakers. And at that point, somebody needs to make a motion to put this back in for discussion purposes, because that whole discussion is not
and
part of any
remember my
motion.
thoughts.
Okay. So let's move to non-agenda speakers, and we'll start with, I'll call three names. Would you please come up to the table? I'll call three names. Would you please come up to the table? Oh, by the way, on On LAC 1, there was a good cause statement that I neglected to read. This item was added to the agenda for good cause in order to expedite the salary settlement with the Classroom Teachers Association. And on P2, the job descriptions presented were separated and tabled from the job description item at the February 6, 2019 special meeting with a time certain date to come back for approval on February 20th, 2019. And with that said, I'll call the names of the non-agenda speakers. They are Carl Mohammed, Tracy Woodall, and Danielle Harbor. Would you please come up to the table and make sure you say your name and watch the clock? You each have 3 minutes to address the board. Go ahead, Mr.
Welcome again. Well, at least I want to say happy Black History Month to those of you who might be aware of the fact that during this month we take the opportunity to try to retrieve some of the knowledge that has been kept away from us since our fathers set the soles of their feet here in the Western Hemisphere. And with you having some of the knowledge of some of the things that are needed, such as Florida Statute 1003.428 and the injury of miseducation, I was just curious whether or not this year, 2018 and 19, had you spent any resources to really take a critical look at this effort that is needed to assist or to fulfill the idea of the Florida Statute? And I heard earlier where someone was talking about the mental problems that are inside of the school system, and someone was focusing on the idea of African American children, well, they said black, but I'm focusing on non-immigrant blacks. And with us having the knowledge that we have a deficit model of education that we are rendering to all children, particularly African American children, because we know that it's void of the knowledge that is necessary to follow the Florida Statute 1003.428. And I'm looking at, we always talk about equity inside of this county, but we haven't provided the African American, the non-immigrant blacks with any kind of real equitable approach to the reality of what is needed inside of our community. And the blatant disrespect that we receive many times, because everybody already know most of the time, well, all of the time, when I come, I'm speaking specifically for the problems that are plaguing our community, and oftentimes we never hear anything specifically to address our problem. And we know that you're building a lot of new buildings, you're doing a lot of things with the penny sales tax and all of the other things, but I know that the most important thing that you could be thinking about is really building students and really building the educational system here in the state of Florida. You know that other counties are failing, and I always like to exalt you guys, because we've been having the Summer Institute now for about 25 years. And with us having the opportunity to have the lead in that kind of effort, I just always pray sincerely for you guys that you would really take the consideration of what is needed to make Florida Statute 1003.428 in the state of Florida a reality. And I can assure you, the research data and everything is already in. The best people to do this is our community, but we need the support and we need the respect that comes along, because you have the masses of our children inside of your care. And I want to leave you with, it is Black History Month. And with Black History Month, most of the time people don't understand what that means. It provides you with the opportunity to go back as far as you can with knowledge of the human family of the planet Earth. And I think when we do such, we'll be surprised at many of the things that we discover when we take such a quest. And I'll leave you. Happy Black History Month.
Mr. Mohammed, we all know who you are, but for the video record, would you just state your name?
Carl
please?
Mohammed.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Danielle Haber, Chairman Barbieri, Dr. Fenoy, and board members. Thank you for the opportunity to be here, but I'd like to yield my 3 minutes back to the board.
To the board?
Respectfully, yes. I'd like to.
Okay, the superintendent says just say thank you, so I'm just saying thank you.
I did not want to be rude to you and just not show.
Okay.
So I yield my 3 minutes back.
Thank you very much. It's been a long day for us, so we appreciate that. Thank you very much. Tracy Woodall, Andrea Martin, Lenny Brooks. Yes.
Should I start?
Go ahead, sir.
I'm Lenny Brooks, and just like Mrs. Haber, I'm going to yield my time back to the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
My name's Andrea Martin, and the same thing. We're going to yield our time. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and hopefully I don't have to come back.
You're welcome. You're welcome here anytime, though. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll take all their time.
That's not negotiable. That's not negotiable. Rafael Avila, Christopher Knight, and Latoya Verbal.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, board members, and members of the community. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity. So I'm going to borrow a couple of minutes. Just kidding. My name is Rafael Avila. I'm one of your approved retirement or 403B vendors with Palm Beach County School Districts. And the purpose why I'm here today is because I'd like to report to you some information that I think it's important for you to know. We currently have 6,372 participants in the 403B plan right now. That equates to about $81,302,000 in assets right now in retirement accounts from our teachers and school employees. In 2017, we had 978 new participants, and in 2018, we had 1,137. That actually, in 2017, those new participants equate to 1.4 million. And in 2018, we almost doubled the numbers by 2.2 million in participation in the 403B plans. What that really means is that we're going back to our schools and servicing our teachers and school employees. So as you can see, there's a small gap, an increase from 2017 to 2018. But we almost doubled the number because we're going back and servicing and continue to help enhance the plans for our teachers and school employees. I'd like to also mention the fact that not a single teacher or school employee has ever lost a retirement penny in any of our accounts due to market conditions. As a trainer that I am, we train our agents to give back to our schools. They have to give back in several different ways out of their own pocket. So what they do is they contribute to the schools and participating in various programs. In the elementary schools, they donate bicycles. In the middle schools and high schools, they donate tablets for their reading programs or any programs that the schools may have. But they also donate not just monetarily, but they also donate their time as well. Some of them, they read in the elementary schools. In the middle and high schools, we teach financial literacy as well when we're permitted. Our company also has a program that's called the Life Changer, and I'm really proud to let you know that we had a winner in 2017. She was 5th place. She was flown to Bahamas, all expenses paid. She also won $5,000 that was split between the school and the winner, so it was 50-50. I also like to let you know and finish by just letting you know that the participation on the 403B plans nationwide is less than 23%. Our company alone today, we have over 28% participation, so we're very proud to let you know that. At the same time, none of this could have been accomplished if it's not because of the support of the board, your superintendent, and your principals. And for that, we're grateful, and we're very thankful and blessed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Knight?
Sir, how are you?
Good.
Should I start?
Yes.
Okay. A couple of weeks ago, I went to the city hall to speak to the city manager, and which led me to the chief of police for Boynton Beach. And it was in regards to the bolo that I brought up. I'll be on the lookout for, as it were. Now, speaking to the chief, he told me to go back to the organization that had reported this information on me, which led me back to Citrus Cove Elementary. And so I sent emails out to people, like I have been for the last 5 and 6 months maybe. 3 days ago, I get a call back from the superintendent, Mr. Jeff Pegg, and he tells me that he can't find any information to corroborate the story on these bolos. In other words, nobody knows where these came from, right? Which leads me, interestingly enough, to this picture right here. Now, I know you can't see it, so I'm going to describe it for you. This is a room inside of Citrus Cove Elementary, right? That young man down there is my son, Nicolas, and that on the wall that he's staring at is my bolo, right, full of false information. Inside of this room are 2 police officers, one from Delray and one from Boynton Beach, and a state worker, right? When you look at the body camera worn by the police officer, at the end, when they dismiss my son, they start laughing with each other, having a jolly old time about the fact that somebody has posted this bolo up on the wall for my son to see. Nobody sees the seriousness in this, evidently. At the end, which I found pretty interesting as well, the police officer, that is the Boynton Beach one, working inside of the school, is quoted as saying this in reference to me as he's taking off the bolo on the wall. He says this. In fact, I'm going to take it down. He's going to say, I want to see what's on the wall. And I'm going to, what are you talking about? So I have a school resource officer evidently on video saying that he's just going to lie if I were to ask him about this bolo hanging up on the wall. Now, I've been asking for months now where this information come from, right? I need to know who reported this, because we are going into different avenues now, particularly when I'm trying to protect my son, and that's the reason why there were people in here with him, right? And what is supposed to be an impartial investigation, I have my bolo up on the wall for my own flesh and blood to see, and for an investigator and 2 police officers to look at too. And when it's false, do you expect that investigation to be impartial? I don't think so. Now, you told me that I can't observe my son because the teacher is uncomfortable. I would have to ask, what in the world did I do to make her so uncomfortable? Because you can't just say uncomfortable and do as you please. That leads to prejudice and racism. So I need a reason for that, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. Sheila Etienne, Terry McIntyre, Gary Mitten, Diane Hampton.
Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Superintendent, Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the school board. Good evening, and thank you for allowing me the time to brief you tonight. My name is Terry McIntyre. My mission for tonight is to share information with you that might benefit your students, your educators, and your community leaders. My goal is to have my passion for the following subject items create an enthusiasm in you to ask me questions at the appropriate time after the meeting or at another time at your convenience. Again, my name is Terry McIntyre, and I am a BGO, a blue and gold officer for the United States Naval Academy. Basically, in short, a BGO is a talent scout for the Naval Academy and an information source for the public. We are attached administratively to the Naval Academy's Office of Admissions. In your packets, you will find my Naval Academy ID card, which allows me to go on the premises, and my blue and gold officer's business card. You can keep that for your reference. The second sheet describes the centers of influence visits to the Naval Academy, and that's where you all come in, where I'd like you to come in, because I believe there might be some of our districts that in the past have had low application numbers, perhaps for a variety of reasons. I also believe that there are outstanding young women and men from those district areas who, once informed of the various benefits a 4-year degree from the United States Naval Academy provides a person, they might be interested in learning more and perhaps apply. Now, for those students who, for whatever reason or reasons, are not ready to pursue a 4-year university program, there is a military option for them where they can work on their next degree on a part-time basis, and that is joining the enlisted ranks. To that end, the Marine Corps has the Educator Workshop Program, which was created specifically for high school administrators, counselors, and educators so they could better inform students interested in the Marine Corps career path. The description of that program is the 3rd page. Your 4th and final handout is a stapled 6-page description of the Naval Academy's summer STEM camp programs. This is a hot action item because applications close on 15 April. This program is for rising 9th, 10th, and 11th graders who spend a week at Annapolis. The program is designed to encourage rising 9th through 11th graders to pursue a course of study in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. For the STEM camp applicants that you endorse, I will also endorse gladly. The time priorities are as follows. The STEM camp, because that comes up first. The fall is the COI, the Centers of Influence. Next January in 2020 is the free trip to Paris. That's Paris with 2 R's, Paris Island. Located in the historic low country of South Carolina near Beaufort, and then also close to Hilton. I'll help you any way I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre, and I noticed that you were a United States Marine, so thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you.
Dr. Licata, the superintendent, has asked that if you would meet with the gentleman and discuss this program. Did I take words out of your mouth? Mrs. Hampton?
Diane Hampton, North County. It's been many, many years, and I'm asking to somewhat turn back the clock because I've known people for a long time, but I haven't been here as well for a really long time. I've changed the content of my speech. I was initially going to present some data from old times, but as I've tried to comply with what you're supposed to do to present at the board meeting, I saw there's nothing defamatory allowed. So if I had disparaging data, will that be considered defamatory? If it's district-produced data, is that a problem? Will I be stopped? And now I don't think people are allowed to answer me because someone believes I'm about to sue them. So my question is, has the district been notified by anyone that is an attorney that I am about to file a lawsuit? I think it's been 10 months since I've tried to contact the people I was supposed to be able to speak. But I ask you that question not because I don't know the answer, but because I absolutely know that no one has contacted this district, because I am not about to sue and was not about to file a lawsuit. I will ask questions and pose dilemmas that will be met with silence. And I'm supposing that the people that I look in front of me are unable to, and I do not hold it against you. I just feel the same way as I felt before. Someone doesn't want me to speak, and here I am. First, it's been about 10 months, as I remember, since I contacted whom I needed to contact to follow the policy or of the board so that I could speak out as a mother, a teacher, and an advocate who was placed on a state advisory committee, asked to speak before the legislature, and whose work merited a meeting with a commissioner and chancellor. I was the gifted advocacy chairperson for this county. I was victorious in a formal complaint to the state as to the miseducation of my child. Took to board meetings to speak for years, met with administrators for years, had my desires met in mediation, filed a second formal complaint to the state, this time systemic, on behalf of over 7,500 students, and succeeded. During those years, I found some people who earned my respect. I also experienced events which I believe no one should encounter. Now that I'm older, I don't want to die before I hold people accountable for things that should never have happened.
Thank you, Mrs. Halfman. Mr. Midden, you have 3 minutes and dog years.
Gary Mitten. The district is a great place to work. You require high standards of everyone that works here, your principals, your teachers. And I was wondering, these principals and teachers have to meet the job description set forth for them. Very hard. So why, when you get to the maintenance department, you don't require them to meet the job descriptions? You build a job description around the person. The last director we had didn't meet the job description. He worked here for 5 years. He was an AC guy. The one you have now didn't meet the job description, so you made a new one. Is that holding on to the high quality of standards demanded by everyone in this district? I don't think so. In the next year or so, you're going to have a lot of hard decisions. You want to streamline maintenance. You want to move forward. You got to hire people. You can't do it with the current personnel you have because they're not people. They have non-communication skills. They yell and cuss at their employees. This is not the way you need to run your maintenance department. I mean, I think even the commonest person off the street would agree. You don't yell at people, scream and belittle people to get the job done. You just can't do it. It doesn't work. It's not human nature. Those years are gone. I hate to call it modern age because there's still things going wrong every day, but Your management needs skills. These people you have managing your maintenance department now do not have the skills necessary to run that department. You can tell by the looks of your schools now. You don't have enough personnel. You don't have enough voice from your personnel to your management because they won't listen to you. They'll shut the door and talk to somebody else. So I was wondering, what in the world could go wrong? You have a plumber running the maintenance department. You have a lock and window technician as the general manager. What could go wrong? You name it, everything can go wrong. They don't have the skills required. They don't have the necessary people, communication, technical support, education when it comes to finance, making important monetary skills and decisions that affect you, that affect every high school, elementary, and middle school in the county. Because look at them, they're falling apart. You don't have the personnel. Where are you going to go anywhere with your maintenance department with this penny sales tax? Or are you going to keep dwindling? I know I've told you a million times, we're losing numbers, folks. The county is booming, houses everywhere. What are we going to do when we fill those houses? So, you know where I stand. I mean, I've got nothing to gain. I'm not a contractor here. I'm not a consultant. I'm telling you the way the facts are. So, Mr. Barbieri, thank you for the extra 15 seconds.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Mid. Okay, so we're back on.
Because I would have hammered this out, but I've had 2 whirlwind weeks with one child getting engaged and another getting married. And so my head is still spinning. But I have some suggested language for the first 2 qualifications. But before I bring those forward, I'd like to hear from you as to why you chose to put in, what you did in the first item.
So I think the justification for when we were designing the professional school behavioral health position is that a bachelor's degree was appropriate because of the purpose of the work. I think they're going to be dealing with prevention, intervention, and intensive strategies. And then the second point to that is that we really wanted to widen the net to the 170 individuals that we may have to hire, but also in the job description it does purposely say master's degree preferred. So we would love to hire individuals with those master's degree as well, and compensate them with a master's degree. So those are 2 of the major reasons when we were designing that job.
Yeah, and in the job description, everything that's outlined, it can be done with a bachelor's.
Yeah.
May I follow up?
And this is also, the individuals in these positions would not be doing clinical work. So I think that's an important distinction.
They're not going to be assessing, diagnosing, or providing a treatment, so that's why the bachelor's degree is appropriate.
Well, my follow-up was going to be, did you speak to any professionals in the field? Because I understand that looking at other school districts' job descriptions for similar positions also all require the master's degree. And, and that's a big concern.
And we currently employ many individuals. We have our school psychologists, we have school counselors that do require that master's program. And this position is to help to fill that gap so that they're able to do more of the work that they've been specifically trained to do. This position is to, again, most social workers would have a bachelor's. This position would allow the hiring of a social worker to fill in those gaps where we currently do not hire individuals in our district in this space. And also to do that more prevention. When you think about the tiered support of services under the MTSS umbrella, this individual's on that front end. I think the school counselor that spoke earlier talked about how she's responsible for school-wide positive behavior support. This individual would be able to fill that gap so the school counselor could do the work that they need to do.
So, and just another follow-up. So if I agreed to that, then I have another qualification to add that might make me feel more comfortable. So how do you feel about adding a qualification? And I'll do it as a motion later, but the qualification would be a minimum of 2 years experience with children experiencing trauma, emotional and or behavioral issues. Shall I make that a motion?
Yeah, not yet, Dr. Robinson.
Okay, so you guys are just stepping all over my stuff. I'm just telling you. So this is what I've been talking about for 10 years, right? This is what I used to call MTSS, and now we have this name for it. This is a case, the job descriptions to me never really say what the person does. And I also shared the job description with a number of professionals, including my husband, who was no help at all because he's a psychiatrist, so he just wants to medicate people. But anyway, this is the triage position. This is not the person who is having the conversation with kids who have severe problems. This is the first line of contact. This is the person when the kid has a hot pass and they're just, out of control. This is who they go to. This is the person that checks their eyes to see if their child is living in a fragile situation is starting to decompensate, right? This is the first line for social emotional on campus, right? You don't need to have a master's degree for that. And amongst the people I talked to, besides my husband, was a executive director of the Westside Community Mental Health Center, who hires slews of mental health professionals and social workers for that agency. So now, I'll just tell you, I pushed to have 5 years of related industry experience. I pushed for that. I thought that was right. The people that I respect in the field who understand what I hope we will accomplish with this told me that was not enough, right? So I know all you guys told me, okay. I backed down on that, right? But you do not require a master's. The other thing I want to add to this is the higher you go, no, I shouldn't say that out loud. Okay, never mind. I'm not going to say that. But so I like the point that you just made, Mrs. Brill. And I would ask you to amend your motion to remove 5 years of related industry/discipline experience. But I don't want to professionalize this to the point that we are not using their skills. So, I'm going to compare this to when you go to your doctor's office, most likely you have a medical assistant that takes your vital signs. It is not the doctor, right? It's probably not an RN. So you do not need an MD or an RN to check your blood pressure. And so you don't need a master's degree to do the initial touch. And the person who is there for you and establishes those relationships. So I'm going to push hard against requiring a master's degree. The other thing I was told is we're not paying enough money. I mean, that's the other thing I was told. So that's it.
Mrs. Brill.
Thank you. So obviously we spoke to different people. And, and I'm okay if we leave it with the verbiage that's there. I was also told that we're not paying enough, just for the record. However, I would like to make a motion to shift down the qualifications and add a new number 3, so then the rest of them would move down, making a qualification of a minimum of 2 years experience minimum of 2 years experience working with children experiencing trauma, emotional and or behavioral issues.
Mrs. Brill made the motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Dr. Robinson. Discussion. Dr. Robinson.
So, I could really talk about this a long time, and I'm going to try to contain myself. But one of the things, and this is not directly related to the job description, but one of the things that's critically important, as somebody said, is that we hire the right people. We do not have the skill set to identify the right people in our organization. This is new for us. So I think it's critically important that we have outside behavioral health people who will assist us in evaluating applicants, right? And I also believe it's critically important that we have people who assist us in these evaluations who themselves has expertise in trauma, so that if the person is saying all the words that might seem right to the person with the EDD, they will know that this person is a fake, if you will, right? Additionally, I need to make sure that we have people who understand the intersectionality between racism and mental wellness or lack thereof in this country, because we are not going to end the disparities that we have. We are not going to truly address the needs of our children, and especially our most fragile children, if we don't understand who they are and the world they live in. And so all that's just to say is that, and I will, I'm not trying to make the board decide who those people are, but I just hope that the board will agree with me that we need to bring in that outside expertise to help us evaluate the candidates for these positions, and that we also focus on getting the right people and not just filling the position. And I'm going to quit.
Mrs. McQuinn?
Tagging on to Dr. Robinson's remarks about let's get input from other agencies, I'm just going to throw out there right now Families First, because they do have behavioral, I can't remember the exact name, but they have behavioral health specialists, I think. It's not specialist, I'm just wrong there. But they, for example, they have a full-time person in our Riviera Beach, the Prep Academy. So they have good experience on working with our kids in our schools. Remember, they don't adopt schools except for Riviera Beach Prep. But they follow the kids into the schools. And certainly the CEO, Julie Swindler, has incredible insight. So I think that they're a great organization to at least bring the benefit of what they do with our kids into this process.
So I think it's important for the board, when we first were debating this, and we met with the principals and we were talking as a team, one of the, as a former high school principal, one of the first charges I had with the team is, as we were thinking about additional positions, it was how do we take advantage of, as the counselor that spoke earlier, advantage of the people that we actually have. So a lot of the positions as we were designing this was eliminating superfluous responsibilities from the people we already have intact, which is why we have a testing coordinator as a position that's coming forward. And even the design of this program wasn't so much to be, I think many of you now understand it, this is the first line. And I think another key point is we have 180 plus different schools. I had to be very clear to the team, there will not be a one-size-fits-all approach to this work. Different communities, different cultures approach mental health differently in certain environments. We've now, June and her team have placed these different outside agencies in these schools, and people are flocking to them. In other communities, you better not talk to these people that I don't know. And so there's a different sort of, we have to be really honest around this is new territory for us. So, and I also want to say for the record, again, we have to be careful about making it too narrow, because then we'll be having a question later as to why do certain schools have them and others don't. And again, that's part of our equity agenda. Now, what I want to say again to the board is, as we go through this journey, we're going to set up a cadence of accountability, which we will review this, we will make adjustments. We are actually leading the way for the entire state in this type of work. And so I want to be clear that while this is happening, we will have to create a robust accountability metrics to make sure that these people are doing the right things. But I also want the board to understand, if people aren't, we have to get out of our own way we're not always going to make the best hire. That's anti-human nature. We have to put ourselves in a position to be able to undo some of the choices that we make. And so I just have to say that to you, when you talk about bringing on close to 200 to 300 people over the next 2 years, we're not going to get it perfect, but we've told the taxpayers this is what we wanted to do. They responded overwhelmingly favorable to allow us to do it. And so this discussion, you know, I know some people cringe sometimes when we have these debates, but these are the type of debates we have to do the real work, and this is definitely, we're leading the charge. So I just wanted to say from the record that I appreciate this, but I want us to be clear. This is not going to be a one-size-fits-all approach to this work.
Ms. Brill, first, I'd just like to make, Superintendent, so I agree with whichever one of them said. I think it was Dr. Robinson. No disrespect intended for the administrators we have in the district, but we need outside assistance to make sure we pick the right people. So, you know, if you would just agree that, you know, that's something that the administration is going to look at to make sure that, I understand that this is new to us, it's new to the entire state, but we want to get it right, and, you know, maybe we don't have the right people in-house to make the decision who the right people are. So once we get these performance responsibilities settled by the board, if you could just make sure that we have some people that really know, like Dr. Robinson said, whether they're real or fake before we hire them. And
Mr. Chairman, I agree with you 100%. As a matter of fact, every board member at this table has, in our private conversations, have said that to me. I think we need to look at the good work we've done on the security side of this, of bringing on a team of people who know that work. And even when we selected our chief of police, we were only part of the team that selected the chief of police. We reached out to different municipalities, Judge March. We had a lot of people at that table. This team has already decided that's going to be the work going forward. Even more so, several board members convinced, even Dr. LaCava, who can be a little difficult at times, that we will have to bring a pool of people together to begin to screen and have that conversation. So I absolutely agree with you on that, and we're prepared to do that work. We absolutely are, sir.
Thank you. Mrs. Brill?
Thank you. So you all stole my thunder because I was going to suggest that we do have a team for the interviews with pulling in from some of those community partners that we've been working with, as well as our psychologists. So now, since you stole my thunder, I'm going to remind you that I put a motion on the floor, though, to add some language to the job description that was seconded. So we need to vote on that motion.
All right. Do you clear what the addition was, Dr. LaCava?
Do you want me to repeat it?
The clerk has asked that you read it
Okay.
one more time.
Okay, so it would be making this number 3, minimum of 2 years experience working with children experiencing trauma, emotional and or behavioral issues, period.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. That was the amendment. So now we need to vote on the original motion, which was to approve the professional school behavioral health position as amended. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Okay.
Hey.
P3, Mr. Superintendent.
I recommend the board approve the personnel addendum as amended. Oh, I'm sorry.
As amended because something came in late this afternoon.
Okay, all right.
Do we have a motion? Motion by Dr. Robinson, second by Mrs. Brill. Let me read. The good cause exists to add this item to allow employees to begin in their new positions as soon as possible. Is there any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Madam Clerk, are we finished? We'll take a motion to adjourn. Motion made by everyone, seconded by everyone. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Just want to briefly summarize. Over the last 2 months, I've met individually with 7 members of the legislative delegation to discuss not only the legislative priorities that we discussed at the joint legislative meeting, but also those other priorities that we weren't able to talk about at that meeting because there were not enough time, as well as I covered with some of them, some of the other issues that some of you have raised with respect to issues in your own districts. We're in the process of scheduling meetings with other members of the state Senate and the representatives there that I've met yet with. I also meet regularly with the mayor of the city of Boca Raton and the city council members, and I know Marcia Andrews does the same thing with respect to the Wellington, and I think that the open lines of communication that we keep with the state reps and also the cities is extremely important, as evidenced by the fact that Wellington, I believe this year, gave over $300,000 for benefiting the schools, the public schools in the city of Wellington, and the city council in Boca Raton gave us a donation of millions of dollars worth of land for the siting of a brand new elementary school. So the communication that we have in forming the partnerships with our other elected officials in the other government entities certainly pays off, and I know that a lot of you already do that, but if you have the opportunity to strengthen your ties with other elected officials, I suggest you do that as often as you can. I also have met with 2 of the county commissioners. There's 5 more that are being scheduled. There's 2 issues that I've discussed with them. One is the need for the county commission to start requiring developers to set aside land for us. If they're going to continue approving large developments, they need to understand that those large developments generate children, and those children have to have classrooms, and we're running out of space in some areas of the county. So far, 2 of the commissioners, Commissioner Weiss and Mayor Bernard, have indicated that they would certainly consider doing that. Again, I'm scheduling meetings with the other 5 to try and talk to them about that also. And the other thing is I'm asking them to let's get moving on the increase in the impact fees. It's been kind of delayed by the county commissioners for a couple years, and I think it's time that we get that resolved. Currently, I believe the impact fees for the school district are just under $2,000 per home. If you figure 1,000 homes, that's what, if I do my math correctly, that's $2 million. I think an elementary school cost us about $25 million. So certainly, if 1,000 homes generate kids for an elementary school, $2 million is not going to cut it. So they need to raise those impact fees to help us be able to provide classroom space for the children that they're bringing into our county by building these homes. And finally, at the suggestion of our Chief of Staff, Mrs. Schuyler, the board office is in process of scheduling a meeting for me with the new supervisor of elections, Wendy Sartari-Link. Since the supervisor needs to use our schools as polling sites, I believe an open line of communication between the board and the supervisor is extremely important. And finally, in the near future, Superintendent and I will be traveling to Tallahassee to garner support for Senate Bill 294 and House Bill 889 filed by Senator Monfort and Representative Buchanan, respectively. These companion bills are important pieces of legislation that would alleviate the district of future issues with the Ed Plant Survey, cost per student station, and capital outlay for construction.